I'm Picard and welcome to beautiful Limousin, France, and welcome to my house, my home, my humble abode. If you haven't watched any videos about my barn before, there's a link here that will take you to the first barn video, but if you can't bother to click it, I'll give you a quick recap. I bought this barn over a year ago and it was an absolute mess. It's a 400 and something year old cattle barn, we're not quite sure, because the local town hall has no paperwork on it, no history of it. The last thing we know is that the last owner to live on this land was before the Second World War, and this area was hit incredibly hard by the Second World War, so we literally don't even know what happened to the person after that point. We can only guess. And basically my plan is to turn this beautiful space into an eco house, and it was an absolute mess when we bought it. It had a stone floor that we couldn't actually see because it was full of cow muck. It had big troughs on either end, and it had an incredibly bowed, knackered oak beam and a big centre post here in the middle. And it was incredibly dark, incredibly claustrophobic and incredibly awful. And then the roof fell in because we had a big storm and the roof fell down. And that was sad, and it was really upsetting, but then I discovered it was actually a good thing because the beams here were rotten and it was actually pushing the front of the building off. So the roof falling in actually saved the building from the building falling down, if that makes sense. But there's no longer a centre post. In the last video I showed you that I've made all this floor and all this oak beam, but there was still the old beam in here and there was still a centre post. And every time you looked at the house, every time you looked in this space, there was always this big centre post cutting your view in half. Well guys, you can't see very well at the minute because the low light on this Hero 5 isn't the best. But there's food troughs over this side, and there's food troughs over this side behind this table, and little tiny windows, and the ceiling. And this. But now I have space. I'm actually stood in a kitchen cupboard right now. You can actually see the space for the first time, and you can see all the floor that I put in. This new oak beam here that I can hardly touch. I no longer walk across my house and bang my head on an old knackered and bent beam. When we took the beam out, we had to do it in sections. It took a long time. We had to do it over 2 days, and we literally had to cut it into bricks about this big because it was 2 meters up in the air, and we had to cut it into sections and then lift it down piece by piece. And as we were sawing it, the entire beam started to move like this, so we had to put it up with acros, and it took a while. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But when we got to this point here, we actually realised that the beam going this way and the beam that was going that way, this is the end of it here, the centre of all of that was completely rotten. And the beam that was supposed to be kind of holding up the roof and the front door was completely rotted away inside. I mean, it was just gone. There was actually a rat's nest in the centre of the beam. That's how big the hollow was. It was a dead rat, but it still fell on a bone. Still a rat's nest. So this is actually the lump of oak that came out of the centre section of the main beam. There's some more bits scattered around. But this was actually the centre where the two other beams connected, and as you can see, it's actually got a bit of a rat's nest in it. This is why it was so important for us to replace that big main beam. I mean, you can see there's big holes in it and all sorts. It just wasn't good, and there was literally nothing holding up the front door. That's why it had cracked. So, like I said, it took 2 days to take this beam down. But my goodness, what a difference it makes to the space. It feels big, it feels light, it feels huge. Well, last time, if you remember, we were just putting all these posts in and they weren't even lime mortared in yet. Now, all the floor's solid, it's all lime mortared in, all the brackets are all screwed in. That was a job in itself. There's a couple of thousand screws holding everything together. Hello, Napoleon. And and so yeah, it's finally holding itself up. And this big main beam is holding the A-frame in the roof from going like this. These two beams here. And we've got centre blocks in, it's all bolted together, and it's absolutely fantastic. So if you remember, with the main beam going, we also had two beams this way and that way. And I said that when it was time to get rid of these beams, it would be time to do the front door. And I've got really good news. As you can see, I don't really fit in it, and there's a giant crack in the door. So my plan is to raise the front door up by the roof joists go through here at the minute. So I'm going to put a big beam above, and I'm going to cut out here and here and make it look right. But I've got to be able to fit in my own house, haven't I? Got really good news, because the front door has finally, the camera's backing out the front door has finally gone. There was a big stone beam here that was cracked in half, and that was the only thing holding the building up. The stone beam had cracked, but it actually kind of grabbed itself like this, and so that was stopping the building falling down. Now, I have a book about restoring old French buildings, and it's like this thick, it's like a phone book. And when they talk about replacing a lintel, the image that they show of lintel replacement shows a hole about 2 meters, and we actually had to remove all of this up here, everything that's fresh mortar. We had to remove all of that in order to get this lintel out and get this lintel in. And to remove this lintel, we had to completely destroy this stone here and then move it that way, because obviously it had hooked into itself, so we had to then move it apart, and that allowed us to get it out. And we had to hold all the building up with pieces of oak and acros. And this is actually the good part of the big main beam that was in the centre of the barn. And this was an absolute nightmare to get up here, because it's literally the limit of, however much it weighs, it's literally the limit of what my dad and I can physically pick up, even like here, you know. So to lift it over 2 meters in the air, to actually slot it in the front of a building, is a heck of a challenge. So what we did, we built steps out of breeze blocks, and we used an old Toyota Daihatsu jack, because it allows you to lift something in increments. And we actually lifted it up on steps, slowly, up. And then on the last step, we placed a piece of pine that we'd waxed, and that acted as a ski to be able to push the beam into place very slowly and tentatively, and get it all lined up. And then this piece of stone is a brand new one that we made from the existing stone beam. But don't worry, this stone beam isn't gone and forgotten. It's not rubble. It's going to be my back doorstep, because there's enough of it left to make a doorstep. You might notice these cuts down here, and these cuts are because this is going to be cut all the way to the bottom. This front door is slightly wider than a 2CV as it stands. It's actually 5 millimeters wider than 2CV, and that's not quite enough. So we're going to actually make the front door slightly wider, and that will allow me to drive Jolene into my house. But before any of that happens, we have to do the next job on the list. The next job on the list is finally, because this structure is now completely structurally sound, because it's completely safe, because it's no longer falling down for the first time in the entire time that I've actually owned this building, and a long time before that. It's no longer falling down, it's completely structurally sound. we can actually start putting stuff back rather than taking stuff out and fixing stuff. We can actually make new stuff and put new stuff in. And up above, it's finally time to start putting the roof on. We can finally, if we'd have done it before all this was structurally sound, this A-frame here would have actually pushed its way through the front of the building and it would have ripped the barn down. And I've been waiting a year to put that roof back on. So I cannot wait. And after we do that, that then allows us to put the concrete floor in. The way you'd put a concrete floor in a building like this, we need to put the drainage in first. The drainage for the bathroom and the kitchen. I couldn't remember the word kitchen there. I'm all giddy. Talking about this place literally makes me feel like a kid the day before Christmas. Every single time I think about it. There are days that are, you know, stressful, but it's just because I'm so passionate about it. Now, we have to put the drainage in, so the drainage pipes in from the kitchen and from the bathroom that will come down in that corner, and they leave out the front door because I designed it that way. And after that, we have to, all this floor is super stony. There's nothing you can do about it. They built the building on stones to make it, you know, to make it structurally sound, to give it a foundation. And we've actually cut the top off this one because it intruded into the living space. And there's one over there that's actually part of the wall that there's nothing I can do about. So we actually have to lay a bed of sand on top of this floor that's like yay thick, and pat it all down and compact all that sand down. What that sand does is it protects a waterproof membrane that's going to be laid on top of it, and it just stops any stones piercing that membrane. Then on top of that membrane we're going to pour concrete, and we're actually very lucky. We have a local town, there's actually a company that does it. So we'll actually have a cement mixer come and pour the concrete. Concrete for an eco house isn't very good. A ton of concrete makes a ton of CO2, but considering this house is going to be here for centuries to come, you know, it's not some prefab thing, it's not some temporary building. This barn has been here for half a millennium nearly, and it's going to be here, half a millennium. It's not 50 years is half a century, 500 years is half a millennium. It's literally been here for half a millennium. So it's my job to make sure that this house is here for half a millennium more. And that concrete floor will allow that. It's literally the best thing that I'm able to provide for this house. It doesn't need to be steel reinforced or anything like that. It's fine being just a house concrete floor. Because the walls are so thick, the barn is so strong, although it will reinforce the entire structure. Then I can finally drive my car into my house because the roof will be sealed and the floor will be sealed, and Jolene can come in out of the winter cold, and that means I can then put a chimney in and I can finally have my auger in, and that's one step closer to having a hot shower. I've basically been camping for over a year and warming hot water up in pans and stuff to have a bath. So to actually be able to turn on a tap and have hot water will feel like the greatest luxury ever. But I promise you, I won't show my first shower because that'd just be weird. Although I'm sure some of you would enjoy it. The camera person's giggling. But the first time I drive Jolene into this house, I will put it on camera. Don't worry, I'll make that into a video on its own. And then what we have to do is we have to build this wall up here. We have to finish this this breeze block wall, which will go all the way to the roof. But before we do that, we get to put the floor in. I want to make it out of oak. I don't want to really do the modern sterling board thing. I want to do it out of old-fashioned oak planks, if I can. So I've been talking to some neighbours and stuff and finding out who has a secret stash of old floorboards. Hopefully I can find something. And with the first floor going in, that then allows me to put my Aga in here. My Aga is basically a wood burning stove that does all the central heating for the house. It runs radiators as well as providing hot water. And then I can put the chimney in, because obviously I can't put a scaffolding on these floorboards, on these floor beams. I need a floor to put it on. So once we've done that, we can build up this wall here. We can put these breeze blocks actually in a wall. And the other thing is putting the chimney up. Now the chimney will run up this wall here. The arc will be about here-ish, and it will run up and then that way, and out the front of the roof. Because if you look, we have, can I just have the camera a second? We have a teeny tiny window up in that corner, and I absolutely adore that window, and I want to keep it. Also, the ceilings in all the other houses are actually on the fronts. The ceilings, no, the chimneys on all the other houses are on the fronts of the houses. So I want to keep our house in keeping. Keep our house in keeping, yeah. And that involves running our chimney from this side up and across. Another development that I've discovered is that, if I can come up here, get rid of my steel toe cap boots. Rup. This is where the breeze blocks come in handy. The other development I've discovered is that, turn the microphone round, is that all these holes here are actually windows to the outside. Not all of those are, because a couple of the bottom ones of those I think are hooked into the roof next door, because there's a storeroom on the outside. Hey look, you can actually see a coal tit there, a female coal tit that's been roofing in my barn, nesting in my barn. Hello female coal tit. Anyway, so a lot of these are actually windows to the outside, and so are these ones along here. So these ones will be bathroom windows, and then I'll have some little kind of, not floor level, but just above floor level windows in the house, and I might open some of these up. And then we get the light flooding in, because we are south facing. In fact, they're like this, look, can you see? That's my, that's the spare bedroom. That'll be the walk-in wardrobe. Still to do is the lintel above this window here, which is my bedroom window. The way we're going to do it is we're going to put a lintel in above, very similar to the way we did the door, and that'll actually make the window wider, because you can see there's actually a hole in the wall next to the window. So we'll have to take the side of that wall out there and the old lintel. We'll put a new lintel in above it, and that will make the window both taller and wider. And that's my bedroom window. All this here, this side of the A-frame, the other side of the A-frame is my bedroom window. This is my bathroom. So we'll have some free little windows that we didn't even know. We just thought they were kind of post holes for floor beams, but it turns out some of these actually go through to the outside. So we'll have even more light than we thought. I don't want to start knocking big windows in a beautiful old barn though. Making that window wider is literally the best way to fix it. The roof windows that I eventually want to put 2 roof windows in this side and then 2 roof windows in that side. This hole here is just a roof insulate that slid down with the movement of all this. So that needs to be put back. But it's still there, it's fine. And the roof windows aren't going to be this year. They might not even be next year, because there's just so much to do. But luckily we can live in this space once it's all plastered. Like I say, the reason why we're not going to move in this year is simply because once we put this floor down, we get to put a scaffolding up and we get to plaster all the house. And anytime you can do stuff that's dirty, like plastering and stuff, without living in the dust and the muck, you're better off doing it, you know. So we're actually gonna keep living in the storeroom next door, and we're going to get all of this plastered and get all of this, you know, lined and beautiful, and get to a point where we have an actual building that's not dusty, that we don't have to move stuff out of in order to do work. we can just come in here in the morning because we'll have the auger in here. It'll be warm and nice. And yeah, we can literally just come in the morning and start work. So along with this window up here, of course, there's my back window and my back door. The back window and the back door, we're not doing either. We're going to wait until we can actually put windows and doors in the house. Because, like I said, there's only so many hours in a day, and this sort of building, it's tempting to kind of want to rush it and want to get it all done now. But you can only just do so much at once, and because obviously everything's a funny size in this house, you can't just buy stuff off a shelf. So we're actually going to have to make all our own window frames. It's also a money thing as well, I'll be honest. But I'll be making all my own window frames and stuff like that. Luckily, my dad's a master joiner, as well as being a badass engineer. And I have some joinery experience, obviously working on boats for years. And so yeah, window frames are no problem for us. As well as the front door lintel's now done. I've got to make some front doors. I've got to make window frames. Like I said, I've got to build a chimney. I've got to put a floor in. Like the list of jobs never gets shorter; it just gets longer. Yay! I've gotten to this point now. I can do all these other jobs. I absolutely love it, and there's nothing I'd rather do when I get up in the morning than start work on my house. I love doing YouTube as well, but I'm sorry, house wins. House is awesome, because one day I'm going to actually be able to. My dream, right? This is kind of daft and crazy, but my dream is to get up in the morning. It's to walk downstairs. It's to make a cup of coffee in my kitchen, and then sit. I have a bed settee that's like a vintage bed settee that I was given. It's like a 70s Germanic made cool thing, but my dream is to actually sit on my sofa here and drink a cup of coffee. That's my dream, to wake up in my house, go downstairs and to have a cup of coffee. It's the little things that matter, and one day I will be able to do that. I will be able to, and that keeps me going. You know, that little tiny dream keeps me going. Eventually there'll be a big spiral staircase here. I'm not going to tell you what sort of spiral staircase. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do with that spiral staircase. But there will be a big a little spiral staircase here and a glass hallway. Again, that's not going to be this year. That's going to be next year, hopefully. I've got a really cool plan for the spiral staircase. When I was a kid, we had a spiral staircase in our cottage and it was awesome. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And the glass hallway is going to bring light in from the roof windows above. But that's going to have to wait because obviously glass is expensive along with, you know, windows and stuff. And then all this wall here is going to be a big bookcase because I have so many records and books and flipping car manuals and coffee table books and all of that. So there's going to be a big wall bookshelf. In that there's going to be a desk because I want to be able to have an editing space that's downstairs. I don't want an office. I want to be in my house. You know, it's my house and it's my space. It's my dream space, and to be able to sit in this inspirational hub that is my home. You know, this house is the culmination of all my inspirations. This is the culmination of all my plans. I couldn't have a better mood board than this house, you know. So I'm making videos like crazy at the minute because I need a week in order to put the roof on. I had to do the same thing when we took this big beam down because I had to just work solidly. So I'm currently stockpiling videos so that I can get a full week to put this roof on, because obviously we have no labourers, we have no builders. It's literally myself, my partner, my dad, my mum. You know, my mum makes lunch for everybody so that we don't have to cook, and I'm massively lucky to have that support. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please let me know down below. I always pick my favourite comments of the week. even, you know, from old videos and stuff, any new comments on old videos, and I post them on Twitter. All my social media's down there in the description. I'm the Oliver Pickard on everything. It's real easy to find me. If you like this video, please click like. It lets me know that you liked it, and it lets YouTube know that you liked it, and it massively, all channel engagement helps massively. Commenting helps me massively. Clicking like helps me massively. Subscribing is a huge deal if you're not already subscribed. And if you want a notification, click the bell next to subscribe, and that'll tell you every time I upload a video, every Saturday and Wednesday. I do it in the morning here in France. Wherever you are in the world, it'll be whatever time. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.